Hi, everybody, and welcome to our last lesson in our Growing Food at Home unit. Today, we're going to read a book called Grandma's Garden. And this is a book, and it's going to be given in two different perspectives or point of view. So it's going to be given in a point of view from a mom and a point of view from a little girl named Chelsea. And we're going to talk about all about her grandma's garden and things that she liked to do with her grandma when she was little, just like you guys like to do things with your grandparents now. So we're going to read Grandma's Garden. Grandma Dorothy loved gardens. She loved the flowers, she loved the trees, she loved the animals and the dirt and in between the plants. And she loved the time she spent with us. Because Grandma Dorothy loved gardens, and we do too. So there's Grandma Dorothy, and there's the mom, and then there's a little girl, Chelsea. So it's going to be given in their 2 points of view. I remember dancing across the lawn with sprinklers in each hand. And then Chelsea's mom says, I remember cutting up tomatoes we just picked for the 4th of July lunch. Gardens are places to celebrate. Look at this. Gardens are places to celebrate. So for the 4th of July, they picked tomatoes for their garden to have part of their dinner. Yum, I love tomatoes. I remember being so proud that Grandma asked me to help take care of her azaleas, says Chelsea. And then Chelsea's mom says, I don't know whether Chelsea or my mom loved gardening more, but they loved gardening together. Gardens help teach us responsibility. So here's little Chelsea, and she's helping her grandma water her azaleas or a flower. And then Chelsea's mom is watching. It's kind of cool. Do any of your grandparents have gardens? My great-grandpa had a garden, and he made all kinds of things. So then Chelsea says, when my grandma talked about gardens she'd visited in Morocco, it made me want to visit them too. And then Chelsea's mom says, I love that my mom had adventures in life, and that her adventures included beautiful gardens. Gardens are places of discovery. So this is in a different country in Africa called Morocco. They have a little bit different culture there, and their gardens look a little bit different than here. Some of you might have gone to a botanical garden before. Those are really cool places to explore and discover new things. Chelsea says, I loved reading with my grandmother on the porch next to her sunflowers while listening to the animals in the nearby zoo. Chelsea's mom says, I would often read the same book for their book club of 2 or 3 when we all read together. Gardens are places for learning. One of the fun things that I like when going to a botanical garden is learning about the different types of plants there. Because sometimes there's plants that I've never heard of before. So gardens are a great place for learning. Chelsea says, in Arkansas and Washington, D.C., we spent lots of time at the zoo. And my grandmother always pointed out the trees and plants the animals were sitting under, swinging on, or eating. And Chelsea's mom says, I always appreciated my mom teaching Chelsea how dependent her favorite animals were on nature, whether it were caterpillars in the backyard or pandas at the zoo. Gardens are home to creatures large and small. So gardens help animals eat. So this panda is eating some bamboo from his garden. Yum. Chelsea says, I loved listening to my mom and grandma talk about all the places in the world where food comes from, including our own backyard. And then Chelsea's mom says, as a little girl, I remember my mom explaining that some of my favorite foods, like peaches, were so special because they only grew during the summer months. Gardens give us food. And yummy food at that. Sometimes some of the best tasting vegetables come from a garden in our backyard or at our grandpa's house or our uncle's house or a friend's house. It tastes so yummy. Now Chelsea says, when my grandma moved in with my parents, I loved visiting them and listening to my mom and grandma talk about the newest additions to their garden. Chelsea's mom says, once we were living together, my mom and I spent more time planting in the garden and picking out and tending to plants and trees and flowers and watching the birds. Gardens are where we can create beauty. Sometimes it's fun to plant a garden. Come up with the different colors we want to see. Watch them grow. My grandma has some rose bushes at her house. They blossom every year. They're beautiful. Chelsea says, when I saw my grandma, I loved showing her pictures of gardens I'd visited. When I could, I would bring her a souvenir of a book of the garden to share. My grandma's smile made it worth the heavy suitcase. And then Chelsea's mom says, as I've traveled around the world, I have tried to store up images of the gardens and plants and trees I'd seen and shared with my mom. I loved sharing so many memories with her. Gardens are places to share stories. Do you have a story about a garden? One time I went to a garden at one of our former President Thomas Jefferson's house in Virginia, and I thought it was beautiful. And I went with my mother-in-law and my husband. It was a good time. Chelsea says, my grandma gardened into her 90s. Wow, that's really old to be gardening. She knew it was good for her, but that's not why she did it. She did it because she loved it. Then Chelsea's mom says, watching my mom enjoy our garden and tending to it gave me much joy as it gave her. Gardens help us stay strong. See, she's an old lady planting a garden. That's awesome. Looks like it's around harvest time because the trees are turning different colors. On a particularly magical day, my grandma and I visited Mount Vernon, George Washington's home and gardens. George Washington was our first president. He's not alive anymore, but you can still visit his home. I wish we could have visited more gardens together, says Chelsea. And then Chelsea's mom says, my mom and I would go to historic Dumbarton Oaks near our home in Washington, D.C., to wander around the gardens and learn more about the family who lived there. I wish I could have visited more gardens together. Gardens are places to create memories. So they have great memories with their grandma and all these gardens. It's beautiful. Chelsea says, my children now garden with their grandmother, which is Chelsea's mom. I feel Grandma Dorothy's present every time we plant a vegetable or grow a flower. Chelsea's mom said, I now feel particularly close to my mom when explaining how to use a small shovel or how to dig a deep hole to plant a seed and how much water goes in and how much plants really need. Gardens connect us across many generations. So now Chelsea's mom is the grandma, and here's Chelsea's kids. Because she's a grown-up now. It's kind of cool. Chelsea says, my grandmother was always willing to play tag with me and throw a ball around, play hide and seek in the garden. I think she had as much fun as I did. And then Chelsea's mom says, today watching my grandchildren race across the lawn, run around the trees and smell flowers makes my heart smile. Gardens are places to remember. Our beloved Grandma Dorothy believed in gratitude and being thankful for what we've been given, and working to expand our circle of blessings. We are so grateful we shared her love of gardens, and we share the love she gives with us to the next generation. What do you share with the people you love? The end. And that is Grandma's Garden. So my question for you is, what's something you enjoy doing with a grandparent? Maybe you like going on a walk, or going to the zoo, or watching movies. There's so many cool things we can do with our grandma and our grandpa, or our grandma, or our grandpa. There's so many special things to do with them. So let me know what you do with your grandma and grandpa that is so special to you in your heart. It might not have to be gardens, but if you do like going to gardens, that's fine too. I hope you guys have a great and wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow for our weekend challenge. Wow, guys, the week went by so fast this week. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.